Hello, welcome to the Productive Wellbeing Show. I am so excited that you could be here with me, your host, Abigail Barnes. And today on the show, I am joined by the amazing Molly Rosedale. I always want to call her Rosendale, but it's Rosedale. And Molly is the head of marketing at Token. Token are an open banking platform. And Molly is also a mother of two and a wife. And we are going to be having a conversation today about juggling it all in lockdown, because I think it's about time that we get real and raw and honest and talk about like what's actually going on. So as you're joining live, let me know in the comments where you're joining us from. As you have any questions, put them into the comments and we will get to them if we've got time. And if not, Molly and I are going to hop online afterwards. If you're watching on the replay, say replay. And otherwise, sit back. This is going to be a really exciting conversation. And hopefully the internet is going to bear with us today, because everybody is back to school and online and doing what people do. So, Molly, thank you so much for joining me today on the show.
I'm so happy to be here. It's this topic that's near and dear to my heart. And we're still working to get it right, but happy to share, the journey that we've been on, which actually started prior to lockdown, but I'll share a little bit more about that in a minute.
Amazing. And thank you for doing this, because there's this whole myth around, like, if you're a woman in business, you have to, pretend that you're doing it all and you've got it all and everything's handled, and, there's no sweat going on, right? And then throw in COVID-19, it kind of makes the world look totally different.
Yeah. I think that there's a bit of a misperception as well that, people have settled in at this stage, and that people aren't necessarily having, as rough of a time as they might have had in the beginning. And I think actually the to the contrary, I think people are experiencing, peaks and valleys right now that are, more frequent than we would have expected. And, I know the first 2 weeks of this were particularly, challenging for us as a family. My husband and I were actually both quite ill the first 2 weeks of lockdown. We did finally get confirmation that we did have coronavirus. So, it felt slightly bittersweet to know that we've had it, but obviously, nobody really knows what that means now. But we were really thrown into the thick of it. We weren't well. We had been working from home for a week already. They threw the kids into the mix, and I think the teachers were incredibly optimistic about, what parents could achieve. And not very, realistic about, the type of learning environment that somebody can create at home on top of a normal work schedule. So we had a number of very low points in the first 2 weeks where I thought to myself, we're not going to make it through this, and something's really got to give. And we started to really put structure in place and start to shift our mindset a little bit. And I mentioned before that we were almost kind of set up in a way to deal with this. We've had an interesting year in our household. My youngest fell ill on Christmas Day, and what we thought was the flu, in fact, wasn't the flu. And she spent all of January in hospital here in London. And, coming out of that, we were in a rhythm almost that isn't so dissimilar from what we're doing now, where, we were trading off days at the hospital, days online, trying to stay on top of work, ensuring that our son, had the attention that he needed. And then obviously you throw household operations on top of that. And, so we were in a good structure and in a good rhythm and a good pattern prior to this. So we were able to almost dip back into that as we came into this, and really had to kind of push through the first few weeks. Sorry. I had only been back at work really full time for about a month when this hit. Which I'm grateful for, because although I was staying in touch and staying online, my work load had obviously, been delegated out to the rest of the team so that I could focus on my daughter. But I was grateful for that month, and we pushed through the first 2 weeks, and I think we hit a turning point over Easter weekend. So, we had settled into a routine, and the way that we approach our days, I think it's slightly different than what some other people are doing. I've seen people, trade off and do chunks of time. So somebody spends 3 hours in the morning homeschooling and 100% dedicated to their kids, and then they swap roles, in the afternoon. People come online early, stay on late. It didn't work for us. We tried it for a few days, and it was just failing miserably. And so what we do each day is each of us kind of aligns ourselves to one child for the day. And we set ourselves up in different rooms in the house, because 2 kids at a kitchen table who on a good day like to push each other's buttons is a recipe for disaster. So we break off into 2 groups, and we separate into 2 separate rooms. And one of us teaches all day with that child. And we do really digestible chunks with them. So, I'll have a call, and I say, if I have my son with me, I set him to task on something that I know is, in his classwork queue. I finish my call, I check his work, get him going kind of on the next thing, right? And that works really, really well for us. And it allows us to also be online for most of the day. So we come online, around 9 in the morning and work through until 5:36. Now, that's not to say it's not broken up with meals and kind of other parenting that needs to happen, but it's slightly more consistent with what you would experience, Monday through Friday going to the office. And it means that I can then, I can be on calls. I don't have to defer and say I'll circle back. And it just allows me to kind of stay in touch and stay connected to everything that's going on.
Amazing. And for those of you, just to give you a little bit more background to Molly, so her children are 7 and 5.5. She also manages a global team. So when the day is done almost in the UK or Europe, if you like, it's then waking up in the US. So, and the reason that this is an interesting conversation is because we know that this is happening to a ton of people around the country and around the world. And it's my favorite sort of lesson from Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Seek first to understand, then be understood. When you can understand and empathically put yourself in the shoes of people who are senior leaders in what they do. Now, Molly's been in her career sort of over 15 years, and they're managing a huge amount of pressure. And then you have into the conversations of, well, my executive's not talking to me, my colleagues aren't replying to my emails, my company have just furloughed me, I don't know what's going on strategically, my to-do list doesn't make sense anymore. If you can get out of that me, and into what could be going on in somebody else's life. And it's interesting, obviously a lot of people have access to support. So maybe they previously had carers and nannies and people looking after stuff. And it is a kind of cry me a river, you don't have them now. But the reality is that all of these structures that we had kept our life in place and kept everything going as it was going. And maybe in some ways, COVID-19 is kind of giving us this slap in the face of, oh, okay, we were all going a little bit too fast. Everything was sellotaped together just about to make it to the kids. This or that or the other was a real stretch, to reply to emails, to keep a friendship, to keep a relationship. And then we start to wonder why maybe some things aren't working and weren't working, and now we're all grounded. It's like all the plates come down. And so this is why I personally feel that the roller coaster of it all can be quite confronting for us, for people, if you don't fully go with, oh, and try to be from a non-judgment point of view. Like, we were all keeping up with the Joneses. We were all doing it because everybody was in the same boat, the same race. And now it's like, do I want to be in this race anymore? Does this race make me feel happy? Who am I as a colleague? Who am I as a parent? Who am I as a partner? Who am I to myself? Who do I want to be? And so Molly and I was working with Molly's organization, Token, sort of around creating this work-life balance and understanding our time and how we spend it is creating our life. And we were working on a really exciting project, which has kind of gone on to the back burner because obviously all of us are fighting the fires. But the reality is that if we don't spend the time on ourselves and on our personal health and mental health, then everything can run away from us, which kind of then brings me on to the next question for you then, Molly. Really, we've had five and a half, 6 weeks of this, maybe depending on when people sort of went into lockdown and started. What strategies have you put into place in your family for yourself that have really stood that test of time, that are your now non-negotiables?
Yeah, I think I know we think that potentially the work that we started has gone onto the back burner, but I think what we're actually seeing is that in practice now. So, Abigail's got her 888 formula, and I think I do truly believe this is the world hitting the reset button on multiple levels right now. And I'm the first person to admit that, I think part of my struggle those first 2 weeks, health aside, was that my entire support network and the structure that I had created, where I relied on other people, completely fell apart. So we no longer had childcare. We no longer had school. We no longer had, kind of other support mechanisms that we had put into place. And we don't have family here. We're American, but we've been in London for 10 years. So certainly have a support network of friends, but suddenly you're not allowed to even rely on them because we can't see anyone. So for me, I think it was coming to grips those first 2 weeks with the fact that I needed to step up. And I needed to think very differently about my day and my weeks. And there was a shift in mindset that really had to happen. And I wouldn't say I got through that in the first 2 weeks. I used Easter as kind of the turning point for us, where I finally accepted that this isn't going to end anytime soon. And in fact, we're probably in this for quite a while now. And it's not going to change. So I have to figure out very quickly how to adapt. And became evident to me very quickly that I was spending too much time, not really parenting, my children in the first few weeks, and not ensuring that their own mental health was where it needed to be, right? Because, when we come out of this, I think the priority needs to be ensuring that our children and each other, that everybody comes out of this very strong mentally. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of ground to make up. So some of the things that we did very quickly. So I talked about kind of tag teaming. We each take a child each day. We swap. I very quickly learned to let go of household duties from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. You on a normal day, you wouldn't spend that time constantly cleaning up and tidying up your house. Why would you do that now? So again, mindset, shift that needed to happen. We've instituted, I wouldn't say strict meal times, but we ensure that we all sit together to eat 3 meals a day now, which, trust me, did not happen prior to this. I normally don't eat dinner with my children. Because I normally don't get home till kind of 6:37 at night, and they're already well into their evening, by then, with our amazing, nanny who we miss dearly right now. And then a walk every day, and we have a dog, just to throw another factor into the mix here. But if everybody's seen that really funny video on YouTube where there's an actress and she's talking to herself, 4 months in the future. And she jokes, you should get a dog. The walks are going to become clutch. And it is true, because we go out every afternoon. And even if I have a call, I generally will just take that when we're walking. And we've got kind of a 2.5, 3 mile circuit that we do as a family every afternoon with the dog. And it ensures that everybody gets fresh air and we get exercise. We've been blessed with amazing weather during this, which is quite ironic. And then evenings, dinner together. We have a lot of movie nights. We have a lot of books that have come out, and it's really just forced us to slow down and think very mindfully about our day. Again, ensuring we get through our work, but that our kids are well looked after, and they know that we're here and we're keeping them calm, because I want them to go back to whatever learning environment they go back to, whether that's in June or September, with a good foundation of resiliency themselves. So, so it seems to be functioning. We have days that are better than others. And don't get me wrong, we have days where the screens come out, and I've thrown that out the window. I normally don't even let my kids have iPads, unless we're traveling, and the rules have kind of all gone out the window. So so I think my advice to everybody is kind of set the bar a little low, and then good is good enough on most days, and really think about what are the top 2 things that you have to get done in a day. If we were in an office environment, people would be talking about, what are the 5 things I have to get done today? No, what are the 2 most critical things that you have to get done today that are really going to drive business and really set your company up for success?
And what personally are you doing to kind of stay in the mental game and manage mental health? Because this is a conversation that's coming up for everybody, seemingly, and even people who never thought that mental health was something that they would ever encounter, because now suddenly what we used to do, we can't do. So
yeah, I'm a bit of a gym buff, so not having the gym as an escape, and as part of my routine has been really tough. So found great online options for that. I'm getting runs in more often than I would outside. And so I think exercise plays a key part in that, because it just allows you to kind of, clear the decks in your brain. And again, really focus on, okay, what are the 2 things that I have to get done today while you're out doing that? And also just shutting down screens, right? We're locked inside. And so it's very easy to pick up your phone or your iPad and just spend mindless hours down, social media wormholes. And I think it's really important to just shut screens off. There's the news is not changing dramatically. Turn off the news also. They just loop that. You're not learning anything new. Shut off social media and really sit and have conversations, right? Talk about the after. So we have a jar that we've started here, and the kids add pieces of paper to it every week. And it's all of the things that we want to do after lockdown. Measures have started to lift a bit, and it's really simple things like having dinner, at some of our favorite restaurants in West London, and then up to holidays that have been canceled, and more importantly, seeing family and friends, which I think is really critical. So it's looking beyond this, and I think that's really important. Is that this isn't forever. Our lives will look different after this, and I've been reflecting heavily on my time in New York. So I was in New York for 10 years prior to my 10 years in London, and lived through a lot of turmoil, including 9/11, numerous recessions. And you have to just remind yourself, life will look different, but you'll adapt to that. And we will move on, and we will get through this, and there will be light after it. And we'll resume some of the things that we love, which will become more precious than ever. I will never take a holiday again. I don't know about everyone else out there, but those holidays and travel will become near and dear to our hearts.
Yeah, amazing. If you've got any questions for Molly, put them in the comments, because we'd love to answer any specific questions around this topic. And what if you could sort of just share one or two specific ideas that you feel like after this 5 weeks have been game changers for you, for your family, from a work point of view, what would they be? Maybe one for work and one for sort of your family and one for yourself. 888, right?
So I'll start with work. Really questioning meetings and scheduling meetings. So think about, is that a quick conversation that I can really just have offline? Do we really need a 30-minute meeting to run through that? So challenging kind of meeting standards to free up time for people for doing, right? In terms of family, just extreme organization. You can't plan enough or be organized enough. So, and think very mindfully about what you need. Our people keep talking about their grocery bills going sky high, and I think ours has actually gone down because you think very mindfully about what you need, plan your meals, and plan things that you enjoy cooking and that you're going to enjoy eating, because we don't have the luxury of eating out right now. So experiment a little bit, use that as a bit of an escape. And then personally, I would say 5 days a week, I'm doing some form of exercise. It's not what it used to look like, but it gets the job done, and gets me out of the house, gets me into fresh air, and kind of sets the tone for the day. I'm a huge advocate for doing that very early in the day, and everybody who works with me knows that I generally, during a normal kind of environment, I would be up at like 5 or 5:30 to get that done and just get it out of the way. So that really sets the mood for the rest of the day ahead.
And how are you finding your sleep? Are you finding you're getting to bed earlier? Are you waking? This is just a random question, because people have started to say, and me included, just waking up in the middle of the night. Never happened before.
I would agree with that. I would say sleep is, I would like more sleep. I would like better sleep. So I need to figure that one out. But it's nice. I'm loving not having the alarm go off at 5 a.m. So the alarm going off at 6 is a luxury, for me. And I know that's a bit extreme for some people. So I haven't quite mastered the sleep challenge yet. But I think the screen thing is critical to that. You've got to force yourself to shut down your screens probably about 2 hours before you need to go to sleep, because it really does have a dramatic impact on your brain.
Yeah, I think that's a conversation for next week. So just to sort of turn to who we've had with us for this conversation live, we've had a real international audience. We've had Croydon, Edinburgh, Hertfordshire, Birmingham, Berlin, Dublin, Essex, London, Middle England, all joining us for this conversation today. So guys, it has been so awesome. If you have any questions, because you're watching this on the replay, leave them in the comments. Molly and I will come back to them over the next day or so. Molly, thank you so much for sharing this with us, because as we sort of said at the beginning, it's like, but you've got to have it all together and be perfect. No, you don't. You have to be a human. And this is what your clients want to see. This is what your children are going to learn from. This is what your friends know you as. So let's hope that one of the things that kind of ends at the end of this lockdown is this whole need to put up a front, because it's time that one goes.
I agree. And I think, to your point, we're all still figuring this out, and we need to keep the dialogue open, and keep that real. And there's no shame in kind of revealing, the struggles and the challenges, because there are literally millions of people around the world trying to figure this out. And I guarantee you nobody's cracked it yet. No one's quite figured it out. So try different things and share those.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. We're going to have you back on a panel, because I want to do a panel conversation about this a little bit more. Jason Gorner is saying inspirational insights from MR. Thanks. Love it. So thanks, guys, for joining us live. Thanks, Molly, for your time. it has been my pleasure to be with you today, and I look forward to seeing you again live at 11 tomorrow. We're going to have a conversation all about the 888 and how to get some kind of structure into your life, because yeah, balance and whatever your formula is really the key to a happy life. Michael, I can't pronounce his surname. O'Loughlin is saying rock star. So we're going to end on that note. So I will see you guys again tomorrow at 11. Until then, stay safe, stay well, and don't forget to wash your hands. Thanks, Molly. See you.
Bye.